Namaste. This is the course on Sanatana Dharma for youth. The subject for today's lecture is how do we learn sciences from our scriptures? The talk will be by Dr. CSR Prabhu, and we will start with Prarthana. Shuklam Baradaram Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyaye Sarva Vignopashantaye Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. We will continue the talk. For the last 2 days, we have had the same subject. Today again it will be over to Dr. CSR Prabhu. Dhanyavad.
Namo Brahmadibhyo Brahma Vidya Sampadaya Katrubhyo Vamsarishibhyo Mahadbhyo Namo Gurubhya. So having performed Namaskaram and remembered all the Gurus whom we had, everyone had Gurus, I had my own Gurus, you have your own Gurus. So we pay our respects to our Gurus because of them we are opened into the light of knowledge from the darkness of ignorance. Now this subject of sciences from scriptures, how it is possible, how it is not understood. Normally, the question is normally asked when you learn Sanskrit or meet Pandits or hear to the lectures of poets or read poetry in Sanskrit or attend to lectures of various speakers. You don't find science in it. You may find everything else. You may find art. You may find poetry. You may find literature. You may find Alankara Shastra. You may find aesthetics. You may find dramatics. You may find politics, like Mahabharata is full of politics. And you may find philosophy. Bhagavad Gita, philosophical text. Vedas and Upanishads are philosophical texts according to the interpretations. And you may find a lot of religion, the Agama Shastra, Mantra Shastra, the Tantra Shastra, and of course you will find subjects like Yoga Shastra. So how you can say there is science in the scriptures? That is the question. Am I right? So friends, there is a lack of correct understanding of the matter. That's why such questions arise. What is science, if you ask? Science can be interpreted as basically a well-connected body of knowledge. Like when they say political science, it is not exactly science like physics. Physics is an exact science. And less exact is chemistry and less exact is biology, but they are all sciences. But politics, polity, can you say it is a science? Strictly speaking, it is not a natural science. But because it is well-defined, well-connected body of knowledge, it is called political science. Social science, same story. They belong to domains which are not coming under natural sciences. Now, this kind of distinction we can make today. And if you go and tell the political science department to remove the word science from their department name, they will not accept. Medical sciences. Then we have social sciences, humanities and social sciences. Social sciences included history, geography, civics. They're all considered as science, social science. Not exactly history, but say geography. is a science. Civics is a science. Why? Because it is a well-connected body of knowledge which can be learned, understood, presented, analyzed, extended, expanded, and so on. Coming to natural sciences, of course, mathematics is based on logic, which is the queen of all sciences. Without mathematics, there cannot exist any science. And mathematics has got pure mathematics and applied mathematics. So then we have astronomy, very closely linked to mathematics, because the movement of the planets and stars was being observed and measured and calculated for purposes like eclipses and so on, very accurate. So unless you know the accurate level of the nature of motion of the planets, you cannot predict the eclipses accurately 1 year in advance. So our people are doing it. So they used extensive complex applied mathematics inside astronomy. So now we have the Vaisheshika Sutras, which is physics, I explained to you yesterday. Then we have Rasa Shastra, which is chemistry, based on Mercury. And we have Loha Shastra, Loha Darshan, Loha Shastra, Loha Tantra, and so on. And we have Vriksha Ayurveda, medicine for plants. Of course, Ayurveda, the word Ayurveda itself means it is life science. Ayu means life, longevity. Veda means science. So life science we now interpret as botany, zoology. There are about 20 different subjects which are related to our life sciences. Like say entomology. How many of you heard of the word entomology? The word entomology refers to the science of insects. Bacteriology, virology, relating to viruses. Botany refers to the science of plants. Zoology refers to science of animals. Animal husbandry, how to manage animals. The institutes of agricultural sciences or University of Agriculture, they also have animal husbandry. They have animal units. They have one unit for goats, one unit for cows, then for pigs, then unit for buffaloes, like that. So these are all sciences in modern times. So the basic question that arises is, does anything come out of nothing? Like for example, today if you take Bharatanatyam, you all know that Natya Shastra, that is also known as science, science of dance. So Bharatanatyam, which is being practiced today in Tamil Nadu origin, but being practiced over the globe, can you say it has no past? Suddenly it came? No. You have to go to Bharata's Natya Shastra. It's called Bharatanatyam because it is coming out of Natya Shastra authored by Bharata. Which Bharata? Not that King Bharata, on whose name Bharata is not Jada Bharata, but Bharata Muni, who gave the Natya Shastra. So many people have the name Bharata. There will be at least 1 lakh people who have the name today. So what I'm trying to say is any subject has its past. So in the Western world, for all subjects, they go to the roots in Greek. They go to Aristotle, Plato, Socrates. They are their rishis, they are their ancestors. What about us? Aristotle was not in India. Pythagoras was not in India. Demetrius was not in India. But they had close interactions with India. If you look at their dress, we can make out they are wearing dhoti type of cloth. And they are called Yavanas in Sanskrit. And in English, same thing got distorted as Ionian Greeks. Yavana becomes Ionian. So they had close interactions and there was continuous exchange of knowledge of all subjects between India and Greece. Way back, Greek language is 1000 BC old, and after that, Greek was the original language from which all the European cultures came. And Greek itself came from Sanskrit and Persian. Old Persian, which is Zendavest, which is Zoroastrian, Parsi, that is more or less same as Vedic Sanskrit. So in this sequence, in fact, you will be surprised, there was one book called The Indian Origin of Greek Civilization. I was surprised because when I read that book was telling about 30 years back. That book was giving the names of rivers and mountains in Greece, which all turn out to be either Hindi names or Sanskrit. I was shocked. I didn't believe. But when I met Greek Institute of Culture director, one Greek scholar, in one World Vedic Congress held at Ujjain, the same guest house I was staying, I asked him a direct question: do you accept the Indian origin of Greek civilization? Without a wink, he said, yes, we know it. But Vedic and not Puranic. That also he made it clear. That means very ancient, not less than 4000 BC. The Puranas are not so ancient compared to the Vedas. So he traced Greek language and civilization to the Vedas through the Old Persian or Zendavest, then Greek, then Latin, then French, German, Russian, Italian, finally English. So knowledge gets diffused from old to the new, and gets renewed and upgraded and updated. So way back, 1 lakh years back, we had the Saraswati Valley civilization. So the Rig Veda mentions Bitame, Naditame, Saraswati River as the largest and the greatest, holiest mother. But by the time of Mahabharata war, even before Mahabharata war, it got dried up. That means Rig Veda refers to a period long before Mahabharata. I went to that place. I went to the places where Saraswati River flew, but today there is nothing except channels. The canals are there, no water. If you want water, you have to drill underground and bring out the water like borehole. I brought out that water and took bath in it and performed tarpanams to my ancestors in Saraswati. In a place called Pehova, it's known as Saraswati Tirtham, near Kurukshetra. It's about 2 hours from Kurukshetra. So now the point is, the knowledge which evolved on the banks of Saraswati River over a period of 1 lakh years, because we have an old stone spot at Meerut, which is not very far. Hastinapur is nothing but Meerut, and Indraprastha is nothing but Old Delhi, or Purana Killa. So knowledge evolves over a long period, a very long period, 1 lakh years, in the form of the Vedic mantras, and spread all over the globe. I gave you yesterday, day before yesterday, a model of knowledge, which is knowledge model based on the Veda, that is Shruti model, not written but heard and chanted. So that model comprised a knowledge base or a knowledge warehouse where all knowledge was getting appended by various rishis. So you have knowledge about agriculture, you have knowledge about medicine, you have knowledge about metallurgy, you have knowledge about mathematics. In the Veda itself, there is a Krishi mantras in the Rig Veda itself, and there are clear-cut mathematical number series and so on in the Yajurveda. So this model of knowledge, having a knowledge warehouse of knowledge called Veda, got modified after Veda when the Upavedas came. Like Adharva Veda was containing medical knowledge, but Ayurveda came as an independent Shastra, became the Upaveda of Rig Veda, not Adharva. Sthapatya Veda became the Upaveda of Veda. Gandharva Veda became the Upaveda of Samaveda. So the Upavedas which came up, they changed the model of knowledge into specialized treatises. They are Shastras. So these Shastras can be called as sciences because they contain natural sciences as well as social sciences and political science. So all sciences are available, but people don't know. The names will be different. It will not be written science textbook like that. Maths textbook like that, it will not be written. Maths is part of Ganaka, Jyotisha Ganaka, astronomy, calculations of planetary motions, eclipses, and predictions of events in life. All that is part of Jyotisha with very complicated mathematics. Similarly, medicine will not be written medicine like Ayurveda. That is the name. And similarly, physics, there will be no name like that. Vaiseshika is physics. Rasashastra, of course, has many texts which came later. The Atharvaveda gives certain applications of plants and metals and minerals for various purposes of treatment or health. But those applications are limited. But in later Ayurveda texts, there are thousands of texts in Ayurveda, starting with the Charaka Samhita, which gives elaborate models and treatments for various diseases. So that is a medical science. So in the Sulba Sutras, we have the geometry. That is where the Pythagoras theorem was taken out by Pythagoras, and others came to know that Pythagoras developed that, which is not true. He just took out and told, just like Ramdev taking out yoga shastra and telling yoga like that. He went to the extent of exciting even the man on the street. And he played an important role in the electoral success of Narendra Modi in 2014. To that extent, the influence was there on the people. So everybody thought yoga means Ramdev only. In the same way, everybody thinks that theorem is Pythagoras' theorem because Pythagoras told it in Greece. But where he got it? He got it from India, from the Sulva Sutra, because they are much older. And similarly, Demetrius told atomic theory in Greece. So all the Western countries think Demetrius is the father of atomic theory. Like everybody in India thinks Ramdev is father of Yoga Shastra. But Demetrius took the atomic theory from Kanada's Vaisheshika Sutra, which are thousands of years before. The same way, the Ayurveda or Jyotisha section of nose surgery, which was copied from Indian barbers fixing the nose. The noses are cut in the wars, in British period. They had no idea. Similarly, rocketry, they had no idea. Rocketry was practiced in Mughal wars. I have seen the rockets of Mughal wars paintings in Jaipur Palace. And Tipu Sultan used rockets, which British didn't have. So every subject when you take, go back in history, you'll find it was there in India, but not in other countries. So later on, it appears in other countries. That means knowledge diffusion has taken place. I don't find it as a bad thing. Knowledge diffusion is bound to happen. Whatever you say or do will be exploited or harnessed or interpreted by others. You cannot stop it. Even now, when I'm giving this lecture will be on YouTube. Somebody will see it. My lectures in YouTube are in hundreds. And lakhs of people might have seen it in various subjects. You can't stop it today. But those days also, in their own way of acquiring knowledge, people acquire knowledge from any country, from anywhere, by word of mouth, by manuscripts on palm leaves, or by any other means, right? By going there and learning. So in this way, all subjects, you name the subject, it is there in Sanskrit. And that book of that time, it may be there in the manuscript library. Now the question arises, how can there be a, like Nakula's Ashwashastra? Did Nakula himself write? He composed the slokas, he wrote, but he died long back. But people have written, rewritten the same slokas in the palm leaf manuscript. It's like reprinting the book. There was no printing those days. So you can get Nagula's Ashwashastra today in a printed form. You can get Vishwakarma's Vastu Shastra, which is civil engineering. Mayamatam, which is another book on civil engineering for the Maya's followers. And then Manasaram, which is a 12-story building. Descriptions are given, a big book with plans and everything, which is also very old, not as old as Vishwakarma. So whatever books we are having in Sanskrit today, on all these topics, they are available, you can study them. And you cannot say that the Arabs or Westerners have not copied from them, because these books are much older. The Arabs copied from Sanskrit text around 8th century, 7th century AD. All the scholars from Sindh were forcibly taken to Arabia, which was next door, through Iran. And they were asked to translate all Sanskrit text into Arabic, and they did it. So the Arabs claim today that 1,000 inventions of the Western world were originally Arabic. That is true. But before they became Arabic, they were Indian. That they don't. Even the Arabs don't. Like numbers 0 to 9, they call it Arabic numerals in English. But in Arabia, they call it Hindsa. Hind, that means Indian numbers. Decimal number system. Without decimal number system, you cannot have any science and technology. With Roman number system. So the fact remains that there was a time when India was most advanced and all knowledge was recorded in Sanskrit. Not only the Vedas, but later times, Shastras, and so on, for centuries and centuries and centuries. And people came and learned, like in Nalanda, in Takshashila, in Vikramshila, and so many other places. They came from abroad, from other countries, and learned and took. This was going on till about 12th century, when the last university in India was destroyed around 12th century AD. The first university in the Western world was initiated, Oxford University, and also one Italy university. So it is a cycle. The supremacy of India ended gradually, but up to 1000 AD, Al-Biruni is on record around 1000 AD. He has recorded that the Hindus were far more advanced in chemistry, in mathematics, in astronomy, in every subject. He gave a statement. He's a very famous person, Al-Biruni. Al-Jabar is the fellow who copied from Bhaskaracharya's Lilavati and claimed his own. That is called Algebra. Algebra is nothing but the subject given by Al-Jabar, who copied from Bhaskaracharya. So Al-Biruni, all this, who is a historian, he recorded history of science. He mentioned clearly that Hindus were much more advanced than the Chaldeans or the other races. Race by race, he mentioned Greeks, Romans, and so on. So that was the situation at that time. So knowledge diffusion will happen. People, like, for example, if you want to get a first-hand experience of what I'm talking, you go to Nalanda. If you go to Nalanda, I went to Nalanda, I gave a lecture in a conference called Nalanda Dialogue on this Vaiseshika Sutras. So when I went there, I went to the old Nalanda University. My lecture was right behind that old university, that conference. That old university all had ruins. I went to the classrooms. I went to the hostels. They're all destroyed, but still some parts are there. And the model there is that the hostels were very close to the classrooms and the teachers were also staying there only. So there was continuous interaction. And there was an entrance exam which is oral. At the entrance, whosoever comes for admission will be examined. And if he is found fit, he will be allowed inside, otherwise he will be asked to get out. So people came from China and all other countries in the world. So Yuan Sang, Fa Hin, all these people came. Yuan Sang is a famous Chinese traveler and professor and a scholar. He stayed there for 40 years. And at the end of 40 years, he carried 10,000 manuscripts to China. And there is a museum dedicated to Yuan Sang, on Yuan Sang itself. In that museum, what all he did, it has been recorded. You can go and see it. The Chinese emperor spent huge amounts of money to translate all this knowledge into Chinese in all subjects. He engaged Chinese scholars who know Sanskrit and Sanskrit scholars who know Chinese. He paid them huge amounts and asked them to translate everything to Chinese. So, at the end of all that, China became the colony of India, cultural colony of, not a political colony. This statement that China is a cultural colony of India is not made by me. It is made by the Chinese ambassador himself when India got independence. That much is the closeness between India and China on one side. And between India and Arabia, I already told you. And how the Westerners got from Arabia, I already told you. So the roots of all subjects can be easily proven, which is being already proven, that they came from Sanskrit into Arabic, Chinese, and then from Arabic to Western world. You can take any subject, you can trace back. The original source will be the Veda itself, but later on we have the Shastras, so many Shastras on so many subjects, and so many authors continuously wrote. Why they wrote in Sanskrit? Not because it's a religious language. It was a universal lingua franca. But today we write and speak everything in English. We are not Englishmen, but we are using English as communication language between various countries, various states, various regions and zones. In the same way, before English was brought into that position, it was brought into that international lingua franca position by the British Empire. But parallelly, there's a French Empire, French colonies. They don't use English. If you go to France, I went to France. I stayed there for a few days. So I realized that they don't speak English. They don't know English. They speak French. And they have their French colonies. Like British had their British colonies who all speak English. French had their French colonies who all speak French. Syria. And what is it? So many countries are there. Egypt. And another, what is it, famous country? Tunisia. And then the other one, Algeria. They don't speak English. They speak French. They go to France. They get citizenship there. They stay there. My son did an internship in France. That's how I went there. So in the French world, everything is written and expressed in French, not in English. In English world, everything is written and expressed in English. Two major powers of Europe. Of course, Russians record everything in Russian. Germans express and record everything in German. Not in English. They don't even know English. It's very difficult to find someone who knows Japanese, for example. In Japan, nobody speaks it. It is prohibited, banned. Only in India, it is continuing. It has its own advantages. Where a Japanese professor commented when I went to Japan. That's an advantage for India. So all these subjects, if you go and dig back, you'll find their roots in their respective Sanskrit Shastras. I stop here and I open for any questions.
One question, Guruji. When everywhere in the world the Arabs' supremacy of knowledge is accepted openly, why is it that India's was not expressed openly? Like they still say Arabs were that and this, still they say. But for India, it took so many years.
No, you talk of which kind of supremacy?
In terms of knowledge supremacy.
Not political supremacy.
Political, now we are,
That's
I think.
That's what it is. The Arabs have conquered all of Europe. Spain was completely converted to Islam. So that is why they acknowledge their supremacy.
Okay.
And Arabs, so as I told you just now in my lecture, the Arabic texts were translations of Sanskrit. And the Arabs know very well. Like I quoted Al-Biruni, Al-Jaber. So they refer to India, Al-Hind, Hindsa. And so the Europeans don't have direct contact with India those days. The contact of Europeans with India came only out of colonization. Before colonization, like when Shah Jahan was the Mughal emperor, first British ambassador came, and Shah Jahan had no time to meet him. He didn't give him appointment. And if you look at before Shah Jahan, Akbar, even before that, the Arabs or the Europeans had no existence. In fact, there was no England at a point of time. Say Chandragupta Maurya. Was there any England at that time? There was no England. It was forest. Say Buddha. Somebody asked a question to a Swamiji's lecture in Ramakrishna Mठ. Swamiji, Buddha was so great. Why didn't he come to London and give a lecture in the hall here? So it is such a stupid question. When Buddha existed around 500 BC, there was no London. So whatever civilizations came, Rome was later, Greek was earlier. Greek, as I said, they are extension of Indian civilization. The word Yavana, Kala Yavana, we are familiar with these words in our Puranas. So these people, and many of them became Vaishnavites. The Greek invasion, Alexander's invasion later, many of them settled down. In fact, half of the people whom you see in Punjab today are Greeks. Do you know this? The Punjabis and Sardarjis, they look so European, you can easily make out. They're actually Greeks. They're originally Greeks. So they have settled down the northwest India, and there are big monuments. The Vaishnavite Greeks have erected in the honor of Lord Krishna, Lord Vishnu, and so on. So there was so much of merger. So the knowledge diffusion took place. Those people in Europe, they have great respect for Greeks, saying that they are our ancestors, they are our parents, they are our source of knowledge. So how did the Greeks get? Because the Indian civilization is much older. In fact, there is a theory that during Parashurama's time, because Parashurama was killing all the Kshatriyas, many Kshatriyas ran away, and they are the Greeks. So there are so many evidences. The Greek language has many characteristics similar to Sanskrit, and also they have gods and goddesses very similar to Indian gods and goddesses. Like Poseidon is like Shiva. Okay, next question. I hope you got the answer for your question.
Yes, Guruji.
Arabs accept. Arabs, what you saw yesterday in Abu Dhabi, it is not an accident. They know very well India means what. All the Arabs have very close affinity with India. All Arabic countries. Only Pakistan is anti-India. First, Pakistan itself is India, but it becomes anti-India. But all other countries are not anti-India. They know Hind means India means that old relationship right from beginning of civilization. So the diffusion of knowledge took place at various times. So I'm giving you a model that the Vedic efflorescence of knowledge to Vedas, mantras, later on to the Upavedas, Shastras, over a period of 1.5 lakh years, the diffusion of knowledge transfer took place globally. That's natural and bound to happen. So it went in two directions mainly. One is to China through people like Yuan Sang, and that is later, around 600, 700 AD. And around same period to Arabia. And from Arabia to Europe. And China, of course, remained China, and from China to southeastern countries. The whole world, when I went to Japan, I met some people from Vietnam and Cambodia, and they were telling there are only two original civilizations in the world. One is China and other is India. That is the recognition they have. But they don't know that China got everything from India. And this was declared by the ambassador of China himself at the time of Indian independence. That China is a cultural colony of India.
Very nice lecture today, Mahodaya. Dhanyavad. Can we close with Prarthana? It is time. Anybody else has a question, they can ask. Any questions? Please ask. Unmute yourselves and ask. We will close with Prarthana then. A very interesting lecture. Actually gives a lot of hope, and probably I am smiling. I am so happy at the end of the lecture. It feels good to acknowledge this, and I hope Bharat continues to raise to greater heights.
Yeah, actually,
it.
You'll be surprised when I say I was attending one lecture by an IBM chief some 15 years back at IIT Bombay, nearby IIT Bombay conference. By then itself, India and China started about 10 years back. India and China started becoming very economically impressive. The growth rates, only India and China had positive growth rates in the whole world about 10 years back. And now, of course, India is having highest growth rate compared to China also. So that in that lecture, that person was telling, he was a white man, he's the chief of IBM. It is not a surprise that China and India are taking over the world economy or leading the world economy. Then he started giving statistics. Anchor Madison, in fact, one commission was appointed in, I think in America to investigate the historical evolution of economy. There's one guy called Anchor Madison who wrote a big book where he showed the economic development over 2,000, 3,000 years. So till 1740, India and China put together captured 68% of the global domestic product. And within that 68%, India was leading the larger portion. And later on, China started. The Europe had only 6% of the global domestic product. And we all know the famous proverbial Vijayanagar Empire. Had Vijayanagar Empire, this world stock market was being decided. On the streets of Vijayanagar Empire, gold, silver, diamonds were being sold like vegetables. This is very famous quotation. So India was known as gold, Sone ka chidiya. So everybody wanted to come to India, and like Marco Polo, he carried so many jewels in his body and went back. They were all shocked. Because they don't have gold, they don't have silver. Only India has all these minerals. If you dig in Europe, you get only coal, nothing else. So the wealth of India and how the wealth comes by minimum two requirements. Natural resources should be there and technology should be there, without which you cannot get wealth. So industrially, India was the most advanced. Say textiles were made in India and exported to all countries. All the kings and emperors, they're wearing Indian clothes. So gold came rushing to India from Rome, from Greece, from China, and spices, of course. Spices trade. So India was the richest country in the world till 1740. After 1740, it became poorer and poorer because of the British colonization. That's all.
Sir, Namaskar, sir.
Yes. Yes.
I have a question to seek your opinion. So
Yes.
actually, my friends often tell that scientific temper. As if our knowledge or the philosophical knowledge, we call Param Tattva, this has no scientific temper required.
No,
I think
that's no
different
problem.
kind of scientific temper.
Yeah. Did I talk today in my lecture? Did I talk anything about Param Tattva or Advaita? Did I talk today?
No.
So
no,
that is a
even
separate subject. That is Vedanta Darshana. That is
Vedanta,
only Vedanta Darshana. But there are so many other darshanas. The Sankhya, Vaisheshika, Nyaya. Nyaya is logic. People who don't know talk rubbish.
Systematic knowledge, this Param Tattva is also quite systematic. So there is
No. That is the purpose is different. See, human life, human civilization has been there for about 1 lakh years, 100,000 years. So many aspects of human civilization have been existing. On one side, the philosophical aspect, spiritual aspect, liberation, moksha. In those topics, I give those lectures, not today. That is different topic. Similarly, music is there, dance is there, medicine is there. You can't say they are not there. Can these idiots who ask such questions, can they say they were not there? Can they say dance was not there? Can they say music was not there? Can they say architecture was not there? Can they say textiles were not there? Can they say agriculture was not there? Can they say architecture, civil engineering, town planning, everything was not there? If it is not there, people would have died. If there was no medicine, human beings would not have survived in India. If there was no town planning and civil engineering and architecture, there was no place. People would be living in caves. If there is no mathematics, they will not be able to calculate the eclipses correctly and tell in advance. If there is no astronomy, they cannot calculate eclipses. So it is all very, very fake narrative. People have built many, about half a dozen fake narratives. This is one of them. The other fake narratives are the Brahmins have suppressed other castes. Another fake narrative is that women were suppressed. And then other, like this, many fake narratives are there. They have created all these fake narratives to promote their ideology, Marxist ideology, or any other ideology, communist ideology. They will give all kinds of nonsense. There are people even today who say that, Rahul Gandhi himself says Narendra Modi is a cheat, he's a liar, he's a fraud. All these things he says. So now Narendra Modi responded saying, he came once to Hyderabad and he was giving a lecture here. So he was telling, morning I was in Bangalore, today, now in the afternoon I am in Hyderabad, evening I will be in Bhopal. Then people ask me, how do you get so much energy? Then he said, every day I eat 1.5 to 2 kg of gali, abuses. So that gives me a lot of strength. Because of that, eating that 1.5 to 2 kg of gali, I am getting a lot of strength to travel from one place to another, left and right. So people like Rahul Gandhi, they are abusing him. In other words, they are giving him strength. The more he abuses, the more strength Rahul Gandhi gets. The more abuses Rahul Gandhi gives, more strength Narendra Modi gets. He himself told this. So these people who don't know, they talk nonsense. So we have to strongly defend. Simple question you ask. What was the status of economy till 1740? Anchor Madison statistics book is there. You can get a book called one book by Kanaka Sabhapati of Coimbatore, Ancient Indian Models of Economy and Business. He has given full table description of Anchor Madison. Which year, what was the GDP of India for 2000, 3000 years till 1740? So, as I told you just now, till 1740, India was the richest country in the world. And China was also equally rich, this way, that way. Once China is leading, once India is leading. Till 1740, for 2500, 3000 years. That means from Mahabharata period onwards. So India was richest country and China was next, or both India and China were the same level. So after 1740, what happened? The East India Company came. So they started looting. And they, in fact, you take any economics textbook, the first chapter will be British exploitation of Indian economy. That is the first chapter. And in that, there are 3 sections. One is direct looting. That means gold, silver were taken on the ships. Second is indirect looting. That is, they will manufacture cloth there and sell it here by taking cotton from here. Third, economic policies. Fourth, famines. In Bengal, they created such large-scale famines. Millions of people have perished. So all this kind of nonsense before the British, what was the situation? Even during Mughal period. Swami Vivekananda also said, the difference between Mughals and British is that Mughals came and settled down. They didn't loot and go away. Whereas these fellows, they looted and went away. They didn't settle down here because they know they will be killed if they stay here. So whatever they looted, it has to be returned back. Even Kohinoor diamond, that itself is going to huge amounts. You cannot even calculate how much they have looted, let alone the illegal famines and illegal taxations and illegal exports and all that kind of thing. So That is tremendous exploitation. So people who ask such questions, you should tell them, don't look at India of today or British India. Look at the India before British. Even Mughal period doesn't matter. Entire Indian history before British was the richest country in the world. How richest it became? It does not become richest by thinking of Advaita Siddhanta and sitting in Samadhi state. Wealth will come only if you have minerals, resources, agriculture, and also technology to convert those resources into wealth. Otherwise, wealth will not come. It's not that automatically India is rich. So the industry, all the castes are nothing but industrial activities. In all fields, India was the supreme, China was number 2, and Europe was not in picture. America was not existing. That was the situation.
Under the present situation, should we ask that people can be grateful of certain discoveries in Western world now, but they should not be slave to it. They should not be having a status with it.
No, those people don't know what is the history of science. The inventions and discoveries in Europe came when after the Industrial Revolution. Who funded the Industrial Revolution? India looted money was funding Industrial Revolution. So after Industrial Revolution, on one side they suppressed India without advancement, allowing the advancement to happen. After having looted everything, not only wealth but also knowledge. After having taken everything, they declared that Sanskrit is a dead language. Learning Sanskrit is illegal, banned. They have already taken all the texts by them. And then they will say, the India should study English, not Sanskrit. So then everybody became illiterate. India is very poor. India became one of the poorest countries in the world after the British left.
That is the reason.
Richest country to poorest country within 200 years. How much of looting should have happened? So that is the problem. Now India is recovering its natural identity, like China also recovered. So now they are going down the docks. There is nothing there in England now. They are going down the drain every day. And even America is having a lot of problems. So the point is that the original history has to be understood properly. People who don't know history talk nonsense. Another most important point is, like Ram Vivekananda also said, you cannot teach philosophy to hungry men. Only a very well-to-do society will think of philosophy. Only the cream of Indian society were thinking of Vedanta, Moksha and all those things. Because they had enough. They had enough of wealth and enough of material life. They are not satisfied with that. It is not that poor people will never think of Moksha and all that, who have no food and everything. They will think of how to get food. So that itself shows these topics which they are referring to are only possible when the society is very affluent, well advanced and satisfied at that point of time. And India was that till the British started looting and destroying. Even during Mughal period, even before that. Throughout, from the Vedic period onwards. Okay?
Thanks.
Dhanyavad Mahodaya. There's a book called The Beautiful Tree by Dharampal, which statistically says how many Gurukulas existed and what were taught and what is the
4.5 lakhs.
Yeah.
And at that time, there was no education system in England. There was no education there. In India, 4.5 lakh education institutes were there. There were no literates. All studied Vedas, Sanskrit texts, Shastras, everything. And India was most affluent. And in fact, even I think one of the speeches in England, Parliament, I think Macaulay or somebody else told, I traveled throughout India. I could not find a single thief, a single beggar. He told this in the Parliament speech. It is recorded. So they started with that kind of India and they made sure it is converted into the looted house. After looting, what will be there in the house? Nothing will be there. Okay, then let us close.
Yes, Guruji. We'll recite Prarthana and National Anthem and close. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kasyad Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Swasti. We'll stand up for National Anthem. जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल वंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष माहे गाहे तव जय गाता जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे जय हिंद. धन्यवाद गुरुजी. We can stop recording now, I think.